I want to talk to you about something tonight, but I'm not sure how to go about it. There are a lot of things that we are discouraged from discussing. A lot of taboo topics. And often these taboo topics are the very things that need to be discussed and deconstructed in order for us to heal and move forward. I really am someone who prefers to be direct and to receive direct communication in return. I'm finding a lot of relief in my autistic unmasking and no longer trying to hide all of my quirks and eccentricities. Quirks and eccentricities. Is that how you say that word? I'm eccentric. And releasing shame around my sensitivities and the occasional tantrums, for lack of a better word, that occasionally occur. I have a lot of interests and things that I like to talk about, and I've had some hesitation in sharing a lot of these things so as to not alienate a lot of people or go too niche. But I don't really care too much about that at this point in my life and in my personal growth. I think it's okay, and I know that I can lose and gain subscribers either way, whether I unmask or mask who I really am. That some people will prefer one, some people will prefer the other, and ultimately it's best for me to do the things that I want to do and talk about the things that I want to talk about for myself, and in hoping that there are others who understand, can relate, and or appreciate what I have to share. What I'm wanting to share with you is a process of release that I have been working through recently. A deep root release. I think a lot of us have been exploring where we come from, exploring our heritage, our background, our roots, our ancestry. This is something that I have always had at least a vague interest in, and it has just increased over the years, especially after I went no contact with my family of origin. It was necessary for my mental health and thus my physical health as well, to take that step and no longer be in contact. So I do really feel strongly about maintaining whatever ties and connections I can. And I do believe that there's healing for myself and my family in this work that I do of tracing back in time and looking for the reasons why we are the way we are. Not only my family history, but our collective history as humans. This root release that also relates to healing ego wounds and releasing our crown spiritual energy from that distortion of fear that can take root in the root chakra. That energy of life force and survival, when we go through traumas, distorts to fear, and we can hold it there. And given that energy center connects through our ascending spiral all the way up to our crown chakra, that fear, if our foundation is fear, our spirituality will become distorted as well, especially if there are blockages throughout the energy centers between as well. And this story, this piece of myself and my history that I want to share with you does involve those ego wounds as well, and mistrust that developed as well, manifesting in heart chakra wounding. I've always been a collector of stones, and my interest really peaked on seeing the minerals in my dad's office lobby. He worked for the USGS, the Geological Survey, and the mineral that I remember looking back, it was a very large and interesting, intricate piece of sulfur. My father helped spark my interest in geology and crystals and stones just by being a geologist and by seeing those amazing pieces of earth. This release is related to my father's side of the family. He is Irish and Scottish and also Bohemian, and it is that part of my heritage that this story is all about. My Romani roots through the Kingdom of Bohemia. It's a complicated story, and much has been lost to history. As we know, it is the victors who write history. And this is why I feel it's so important that we share these stories as efforts continue and even increase in some places, like Texas, to eradicate history. It becomes more and more vital that we share our stories and listen to each other's stories. What I am choosing to release, what I have released already, is a crystal collection, the Caravan Collection. I've also decided to release the word gypsy from my vocabulary. It is a racial slur for the Romani people. And while I do believe that it's every individual's choice whether to release or reclaim a racial slur, for me over the years I've really found no benefit to maintaining that word, and I prefer to move forward in educating others in a gentle manner if the topic comes up, but I will no longer bring the topic up by using the word myself. So it's an important step for me in releasing the word to release this internalized racism. This is something that, again, I know a lot of us are working at right now and taking steps to recognize where we truly do come from and deconstructing that construct of race itself, knowing that we have common roots. I've gained an understanding of how limited and limiting these ancestry tests really are, as it takes many of us 1,000, 2,000 years to get out of Europe and move further back to our roots to find our ancient ancestry. And this information is heavily gatekept, where you have to pay a whole lot of money in order to find out your I'm trying to remember exactly how they put it, but they show you your closest matches. So someone who has had a lot of European influence on their genetics is going to, it's going to take a long time to find out. It's going to take a lot of money to find out where your pre-European ancestors came from. So I find this to be offensive, and I find it to be an erasure of cultures that have so much to offer and so much for us to respect and learn in a way where we're honoring rather than appropriating, which is another very challenging topic that requires a lot of thought and deconstruction to figure out what that really means and how we can be sensitive and how we can be on the right side of history, so to speak, on these matters. A really beautiful aspect of this release is that the literal crystal mineral release was an exchange. This This is the piece that I received in exchange for the Caravan Collection. It's really beautiful, and I'd like to get you a closer, more detailed look. I'm just really digging the low light and the flickering flame effect right now. This is a heavily rainbowed quartz with iron inclusions. It's called the Iron Flame. Some of the minerals in the collection that I released I'd had since I was a child. It's really special to receive a potent reward like this in return for doing this work. The true reward, of course, being the healing, the moving forward, contributing to collective healing. I hope those of you watching, joining me, can understand and appreciate why I like to add meaningful themes, why I choose to share my healing. I love a good slime video, a good tapping video. But it really is in my heart to share more. It is in my personality and in my neurology to be direct. I think we need more honesty and openness, transparency in the world. We release shame by sharing our stories. I appreciate the space that you've held for me. I find it an honor to hold space for you. Thank you for joining us on this journey. A deep root release of internalized racism, healing ego wounds, and clearing the collective crown. Long ago, well over 1,000 years, in a mountainous land, vibrating with life and human tensions, a dispersion began. Throughout history, humanity has honored homeland, knowing the land, its cycles and subtleties, and knowing how to coexist therein creates the skills required for survival. Because this root connection to familiar ground is so strong, it typically takes a powerful threat to survival to uproot humans from homelands. Oppression has been such a force. So it was, and so it has been to this day. Spread with the wind, the caravans dispersed deeper into Asia, west into North Africa, and north to Europe, later traveling by sea to North America. Like a spoon in soup, picking up and dispersing ingredients throughout, the traveling people spread bits and pieces of different cultures throughout the world, these caravans being one of the many integrating influences in human history. For better or worse, our influence over one another cannot be denied. When relying on blood ties to meet all needs on the road, on the uphill journey, tribal trust is key. Questions of what is to be shared with outsiders arise early and often. Coming from an oppressive caste system, there is conditioned guilt, shame, and fear, alongside the knowledge that all creatures have a drive to survive, to thrive. Why would this drive be right for some and not for others? Questions of karma arise, forbidden questions regarding what is deserved. Every culture encountered contains countless clues and countless questions of their own. Adaptation becomes as necessary as tradition for survival. Welcomes always wear out for these travelers. The novelty, entertainment, and spiritual insight provided, triggering resentment and far worse the longer the travelers remain. What is given freely inside the tribal circle differs when exchanged for coin with skeptics and suspicious strangers. When eventually labeled as thieves and charlatans at every stop, a people will never find one solid ground to call home. Home becomes the rolling rock on which they stand. So much history lost, but enough remains to know. The terms Bohemian, Gypsy, and Romani are not interchangeable. Bohemian is an ethnicity from the former kingdom of Bohemia, a land with tragic history. Bohemian is not a term to be used as a long skirt, long hair wearing, freewheeling lifestyle of wanderlust. This is the appropriated definition. Gypsy is a racial slur based on the word Egyptian. Similar to how the native peoples of North America are various diverse tribes who are mislabeled as Indians, the Romani were mislabeled as Egyptians. This isn't mere ignorance or laziness, but erasure of truth. This is a word I choose to release from my vocabulary for the sake of sensitivity and accuracy. Romani is the term for the people of North Indian descent I describe. Romani caravans did indeed travel to Egypt and settled there, and later on in Bohemia. Along with the increased trauma and awareness of collective trauma in recent years, there has been an increase in interest in spirit work. Spirituality, witchcraft, and the kind of divination practices the Romani spread throughout the world are currently trendy. For better or worse, you can't seem to walk a literal or digital mile without tripping over a self-proclaimed healer. Knowing what I know, having an inside track on this phenomenon, I have more things that feel forbidden to share. Medicine woman, shaman, mystic, these are not jobs, hobbies, or personas. These are roles of honor and sacrifice within communities. A focus on the practitioner as healer is a strong indicator of a person practicing, at least in part, from their wounded ego. This isn't to be judged, but acknowledged and considered. Be aware of a sense of desperation from root and solar plexus wounds, a desperate need for money and/or validation of healing abilities. Of all the things humans are capable of imposing on one another, healing is not one of them. We can set the stage. We can provide energy, information, and treatment in alignment with a person's required healing vibration. However, the healing is the click of alignment on the receiving end. I heal as you heal. So in sessions I am indeed a healer, but of my own energy, my own being. Receipt is up to you. Anyone who has taken every step in their power to help someone and still failed knows this. Whether you are on the practitioner or the recipient side, or both, may you always find the catalyzing, holding, and guiding energies in alignment with your healing. May you feel more empowered with every honest and truth-revealing interaction. With a particular perspective, every interaction has potential to be one or the other. From here, often, the least honest experiences reveal the most truth. Be aware of this culture of sales we find ourselves in. Be aware of what a glossy image may mean. Look for raw and real among all the polished stones. If a person working with your energy can't express how they made it to the mountaintop, from the valley or the foothills, they may not have that experience. The ability to hold space and possibly provide guidance to those in the flooding valleys and those remembering being in those places is as much a part of the work as the pleasantries. Often, that's the meat and bulk of the work. If you learn to sit in your shadow in relative peace, replacing fear with your authentic faith, you have learned to heal yourself. It's common, natural, normal to seek out shamanic energy to activate this learning, to activate the shamanic energy within. Let us tread lightly and thoughtfully as we communicate ideas that could trigger pain in deep wounds. But let us have these taboo conversations, balancing our boldness with our benign benevolence, our empowered selves with our humility. Be aware of the hidden things, the taboo things that draw you in. Are there lessons to be learned here? Are there answers so potent that some would dare destroy or hoard them? Let your mind and curiosity wander, explore, travel. People experience growth and healing in different ways. Some are consistent and persistent, catalyzing anyone in alignment who crosses that path. Be aware of an inclination to give away your power. Perhaps a catalytic caravan just passed. Perhaps a catalytic event occurred. The choice to embrace, change, or deny it was yours, is yours. Perhaps it will be necessary to hold that transformational power within, letting it mend from the inside out. Perhaps it will take time and you'll feel like no one sees you. Perhaps it takes a particular perspective to really see, to truly behold you in all your glory. Perhaps it takes a particular perspective to see you are not alone. I believe these things to be true. More than that, I believe my perspective needs to remain adaptable in order to see any truth at all. Search for your stories and share them. Integrate with honor and respect. Hold space in your heart for where we have all been, where we all are, and where we are all going. All in our own time, all in our own way. I believe in our collective healing via the you, me, us triangle of trust. Humanity, have hope because we have this healing power in our hands.